When Grievous was brought into the Confederacy of Independent Systems, following his reconstruction and transformation into a cyborg, he joined the Sith Lords Dooku and Darth Sidious. During the Clone Wars, Grievous was heavily involved in the plans of the Sith, and would commonly receive instructions and commands not only from Dooku, but directly from Sidious as well. But even though Grievous had contact with the Dark Lord of the Sith, did Grievous know the full extent of Sidious's true identity, thereby knowing that Sidious was Supreme Chancellor Palpatine? In this video expose, I will explain why it's clear that Grievous did not know that Darth Sidious was also Supreme Chancellor Palpatine, and therefore leading both factions in conflict during the Clone Wars. There's no question for your humble expert that Grievous was never informed by Dooku or Sidious that the latter was in fact Palpatine, nor that Grievous was able to determine for himself Sidious's second persona, given the events surrounding the kidnapping of Palpatine and the Battle of Coruscant. When Sidious appeared before Grievous and Dooku via holoimage, when he was going to instruct them to proceed with what would become the Battle of Coruscant, Grievous treated Sidious with the utmost respect and reverence. Clearly, Grievous was ready to serve and carry out the wishes of Sidious, much in the same way that Dooku would, as Grievous even adopted the use of Master and My Lord when addressing Sidious, just as Dooku did. But when Grievous was able to infiltrate Palpatine's suite at 500 Republica to kidnap the Chancellor, he had clear disgust for Palpatine and questioned his intelligence, particularly his decision to defend himself with Jedi who were not of a high caliber once Grievous landed upon Coruscant. However, more telling that Grievous had no idea that Palpatine was truly Darth Sidious was when Grievous was finally able to capture Palpatine on Coruscant. Having taken Palpatine prisoner, Grievous told the Supreme Chancellor that had it not been for his orders, he would have gladly killed him earlier. The orders that he was referring to were those by Dooku, to refrain from harming Palpatine under any circumstances. This clearly shows that Grievous saw Sidious and Palpatine as two distinct and separate individuals, one who he respected and was willing to take orders from, and one who he despised and was ready to kill at his first opportunity. Further, as Grievous was taking the captured Palpatine aboard his shuttle to the flagship the Invisible Hand, Grievous outright questioned the orders given to him by Dooku and Sidious not to kill Palpatine. For Grievous, once in possession of the Chancellor, the leader of the enemy in the war, it seemed that the plan of the Sith was needlessly complex, and that Palpatine should be killed sooner rather than later. Clearly, Grievous wouldn't have been having these questions or even considered killing Palpatine had he known that the Supreme Chancellor was truly the Dark Lord of the Sith and his master. It is therefore clear that Grievous was never informed by the Sith, nor did he determine for himself that Sidious was also Palpatine. A second piece of evidence demonstrating that Grievous was in the dark about Sidious's second persona as Palpatine was his conversation with Dooku once the Chancellor had been taken aboard and imprisoned upon the Invisible Hand. Once he recognized that Anakin Skywalker and Obi-Wan Kenobi had made it aboard the flagship, Grievous could not understand why the Chancellor still remained in the system, let alone still above Coruscant. He voiced his concerns to Dooku and was adamant in his belief that the Jedi should not be allowed anywhere near Palpatine, as the Sith plan called for. Dooku's answer to Grievous is telling in regards to the cyborg's lack of knowledge that Sidious was Palpatine. Dooku told Grievous that the plan of pushing the Jedi towards himself and Palpatine existed because that was the wish of Lord Sidious, and if he wanted the plan to change, he should bring his objections to Sidious himself. Of course, recognizing that Sidious demanded the events unfold as he wanted, Grievous backed off and dropped his concerns. This scene again shows that Grievous was not brought into the full extent of the plans of the Sith, and shows that Grievous was always of the view that Sidious and Palpatine were two separate individuals. If Grievous had known that the Chancellor was in fact his master Sidious, then Grievous would not have questioned Dooku about why they still held Palpatine above Coruscant, as given his admiration and unquestioning loyalty to Sidious, he would have accepted that Sidious, as Palpatine, was exactly where he needed to be aboard the Invisible Hand. Finally, the last telling piece of evidence from the Battle of Coruscant that makes it clear that Grievous did not know that Darth Sidious was Palpatine is Grievous's reaction upon fleeing what he views as the inevitable destruction of the Invisible Hand, and with it, the Supreme Chancellor. As Grievous was entering his escape pod, he recognized that he was violating the orders given to him by Dooku and Sidious. That is, to let no harm come to Palpatine. Believing that the Chancellor would die on the Invisible Hand with Anakin and Obi-Wan, importantly, Grievous was sure that Sidious would forgive him for Palpatine's death. This clearly establishes that Grievous did not know Sidious was Palpatine, for if he did know this truth, this belief would make him a crazy person, which is to say, the context would not make sense. But it does clearly show that Grievous had no understanding or knowledge that Darth Sidious and Palpatine were in fact the same person. So there we have it. Why it's clear from the events surrounding the Battle of Coruscant that Grievous did not know that Darth Sidious was Supreme Chancellor Palpatine. We love making these videos, so why not subscribe for more fun Star Wars theories and discussions? Also, if you enjoyed the video, think about giving a like or leaving a comment. If not for me, for having everything go perfectly.